They say you always remember your child's 18th birthday, but not like this. Not with your hands shaking in a bathroom, hearing your husband promise a future to another woman. I should have walked out then. But I had one last gift to give him, and it wasn't wrapped in a box. It was the truth. The evening had all the makings of a perfect family gathering. A carefully planned celebration, the table adorned with delicate flowers, laughter echoing around the room, and a sense of anticipation in the air. This was supposed to be a special moment, Eli's 18th birthday, marking a major milestone in his life. The dinner was meant to celebrate his transition from childhood to adulthood, and I had spent months preparing for this day. Every detail was meticulously thought out, from the gift I had spent weeks saving for, to the speech I had written to express how proud I was of my son. But as I stood there, watching the joy and excitement on his face, the illusion shattered in an instant. The conversation I overheard in the restroom hallway was not something I had ever imagined hearing. My hands, trembling from the shock, gripped the edge of the sink as I processed the words that pierced through the walls of my mind. It wasn't just a fleeting thought, it was a confirmation of everything I had feared for years. Grant, my husband, was having an affair. The truth crashed over me like a tidal wave, drowning out the noise of the celebration and replacing it with the deafening sound of my own heartbeat. I had been blind, too trusting, and now the betrayal was laid bare before me. I could barely wrap my mind around it. Years of sacrifice, of quietly carrying the weight of our family's needs, suddenly seemed meaningless. I had given everything, nights alone while Grant worked late, holidays spent by myself with Eli, countless moments where I silently bore the burden of our family's well-being. All for what? For him to go behind my back and tear everything apart with a simple affair. The realization settled like a lead weight in my stomach, and my breath caught in my throat. How could I have missed it? How could I have been so naive? And yet, there it was, the undeniable truth. Grant had promised me a future, a partnership, a family built on mutual respect and love. But what was left now? A shattered image of a man who had vowed to cherish me but had instead chosen to betray me in the most painful way possible. The hurt, the rage, the disbelief all swirled together, leaving me frozen in place. The sound of Eli's excited chatter drifted toward me, but it felt like a world away. How could I focus on celebrating his new beginning when my own was collapsing right before my eyes? I glanced back at Grant, who was still seated at the table, engrossed in his phone, completely unaware of the storm brewing in my heart. The anger within me bubbled up, but I kept it contained, barely. I couldn't let him see how much he had broken me, not yet. Not when I had so much more to confront him with. The years of secrets, lies, and the invisible weight I had carried would soon be revealed. But for now, I had to wait, to collect myself. I couldn't show weakness. Not here, not now. The gift I had carefully chosen for him sat in front of me, a limited edition Hublot watch, a symbol of the years of hard work and sacrifice I had put into making our family's life comfortable. Now, as I stared at it, the very thing I had once thought would bring him joy seemed like a cruel joke. The man who had once sworn to love and cherish me had destroyed everything we had built. I wanted to throw it at him, to let him feel the weight of the years of pain, but I held back. There would be a time for that, soon. Not yet, I whispered to myself, a bitter promise hanging in the air. I couldn't lose control now. There was a plan to execute, a confrontation waiting to happen. The time would come for me to make him pay for this betrayal, but first, I had to endure this facade, this final charade of a family dinner. As Eli's voice echoed from the other side of the room, my heart squeezed. This wasn't just about me anymore, it was about him, too. About protecting him, about shielding him from the ugliness that had been lurking beneath the surface for so long. He deserved better than this. Better than a father who would so easily turn his back on the family he helped create. But most of all, he deserved a mother who would fight for him, who would make sure that the lies and manipulation would not define their future. It wasn't just about holding on to the past, it was about reclaiming control over our future. And that was what I would do, no matter how hard it would be. No matter how much it would hurt. The truth had to come out, and when it did, there would be no turning back. Just wait, I thought, feeling a surge of resolve rise within me. Soon, it'll all be over. And so, I returned to the table, my breath steadying as I forced a smile and rejoined the conversation. It would take every ounce of strength I had, but I would face the truth. The truth that had been hiding in plain sight for far too long. The night would come, and when it did, everything would change. The moment I overheard the conversation, everything around me seemed to slow down. The laughter of our family, the clinking of wine glasses, the chatter about Eli's future, it all faded into the background as the words hit me like a thunderclap. Grant, my husband, the man I had trusted with every fiber of my being, was having an affair. And the worst part? He had been planning to leave me for her as soon as Eli turned 18. The thought of it struck me so violently that I almost couldn't breathe. How could he? How could he betray me like this after everything we'd been through? The truth was ugly, and as much as I wanted to deny it, it was undeniable. The quiet sacrifices I had made over the years, working late into the night, missing family events, putting Eli's needs first, all while holding the pieces of our life together, meant nothing to him. The years I had spent thinking we were a team, supporting each other, were now reduced to a lie. This man, who I had built my life with, was planning to walk away without a second thought. For a moment, I felt numb. Disbelief was the first emotion that took over. How could I have missed the signs? How had I been so blind to what was happening right in front of me? My mind raced as I tried to piece together the years of our relationship, every quiet argument, every unexplained absence, every time I had tried to brush off the little suspicions that gnawed at me. It all made sense now. How had I been so naive? But beneath the shock and disbelief, a heavy weight of anger was slowly building up. How dare he? How dare he destroy everything for a moment of fleeting satisfaction with someone else? And the sheer arrogance of his words, the casualness with which he spoke about abandoning everything we had built, it made my blood boil. The thought of him sitting there, so oblivious to the storm that was brewing inside of me, almost made me sick. As I watched him, so absorbed in his phone, a deep sense of betrayal washed over me. I had spent so many years building this life, this family. I had made sacrifices he would never understand, and now, it was all for nothing. My eyes drifted across the table, landing on the birthday gift I had spent months saving up for, a limited edition watch I had carefully chosen for Grant, thinking it would be the perfect symbol of our life together. A life that no longer existed. The irony was too much to bear. I wanted to throw the damn thing at him, to make him feel even a fraction of the pain he had caused. But I didn't. Not yet. I couldn't let my anger control me. I needed to think. I needed a plan. But most of all, I needed to protect Eli. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about him. About our future. How could I explain to him that his father, the man who was supposed to be his hero, was nothing more than a coward? How would he ever trust anyone again? My hand trembled as I gripped the edge of the table, my mind spinning. The pain was almost unbearable, but it was nothing compared to the resolve that was slowly building inside me. I wasn't going to let him get away with this. Not like this. Not without facing the consequences of his actions. A deep breath. I steadied myself. I had to be strong. Not for me, not for my broken heart, but for Eli. For the future we could still have. And as much as it hurt, I knew this was just a beginning. The confrontation would come, but before that, I had work to do. I had to gather evidence, to ensure that when the truth came out, it wouldn't be dismissed. It was going to be a long, difficult journey, but I would do whatever it took to protect my family. And when the time came, Grant would face the truth, and he would have to answer for what he had done. My heart pounded in my chest, the anger and pain now sharp and clear. But one thing was certain, I would not let him break me. The dinner went on as if nothing had happened. Grant continued to talk, to smile, unaware of the storm brewing within me. Eli, oblivious to the conversation I had overheard, continued to talk about his future, his excitement about what lay ahead. But I knew, deep down, that nothing would ever be the same again. As much as I wanted to hold on to the illusion of our perfect family, I knew that in this moment, I had to let go. The truth was out there now, and it was only a matter of time before it all came crashing down. And so, as I sat at the table, my eyes still fixed on Grant, I promised myself that when the time came, I would be ready. Ready to face the truth. Ready to make him pay for the betrayal he had so casually inflicted upon me. Lorraine had prepared for this moment for weeks, if not months. Every detail had been carefully planned, every piece of evidence painstakingly collected. The late nights spent combing through phone records, credit card statements, and old emails had all led to this one moment. She had gathered everything she needed to expose the lies, to confront a man who had once promised to love her, but had instead broken that promise in the most painful way imaginable. The tension in the air was palpable as she paced back and forth in the living room. The soft hum of the refrigerator was the only sound in the house, adding to the silence that weighed heavily on her. She could hear Eli in the kitchen, preparing dinner as if nothing was amiss. He had no idea what was about to unfold, and Lorraine wasn't sure how she would ever explain the chaos she was about to bring into their lives. But she had no choice. She could no longer live in the shadow of Grant's betrayal. Her hands shook as she held the thick folder filled with evidence of Grant's affair, hotel receipts, phone records, and a collection of emails that painted a damning picture of his double life. The truth was undeniable, and tonight, there would be no escape. Lorraine knew she had to be calm, collected. No matter how much her heart was pounding in her chest, she couldn't let Grant see her weakness. She had to be strong, for herself and for Eli. She glanced at the clock. Grant would be home soon, and this family dinner, meant to be a celebration, was about to become the battleground where everything would be laid bare. Lorraine had thought long and hard about how to approach this moment. There was no going back now. She had rehearsed the words in her head, trying to steel herself for the confrontation. But no amount of preparation could make her feel ready for what she was about to do. As the door creaked open, Lorraine's heart skipped a beat. Grant walked in, oblivious to the storm that was brewing. He smiled at her, a smile that once would have made her feel warmth, but now only made her feel disgust. He hadn't noticed anything was wrong, hadn't felt a subtle shift in the atmosphere. His eyes were glued to his phone as he walked toward the kitchen, likely texting his mistress. Lorraine clenched her jaw and took a deep breath. It was time. "Grant," she said, her voice steady, though the words felt like they were burning her throat. "We need to talk." Grant looked up, startled. His expression softened into a puzzled smile, and he set his phone down. "What's going on, honey? Everything okay?" Lorraine didn't answer. Instead, she walked toward the table, grabbed the folder, and slammed it down in front of him. The sound was loud enough to make Grant flinch. His confusion deepened, but Lorraine's gaze didn't waver. She had rehearsed this moment so many times, and now it was here. She wasn't going to back down. "What's this?" Grant asked, his voice tinged with nervousness now. But Lorraine didn't give him the luxury of an easy out. She opened the folder, and the evidence spilled out before him. "Let's start with these," she said coolly, flipping through the papers to the hotel receipts. "These are from your trips I never knew about. Funny, I don't remember you ever mentioning these business trips." Grant's face paled as he looked at the receipts, but he didn't speak. Lorraine's heart raced as she pushed forward. "And here," she continued, slamming down a stack of emails. "These are just some of the hundreds of messages between you and Clara. You think I didn't notice the late-night texts? The calls when I was asleep?" He opened his mouth to speak, but Lorraine raised a hand, silencing him. "Don't even try to deny it, Grant. It's all here. Every lie, every secret. Your whole life of deception. I've been living in a house built on lies, and I'm done." The room was silent for a moment, the weight of Lorraine's words hanging heavy in the air. Grant's face was a mixture of disbelief and panic. He had been caught. There was no way out now. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. His eyes shifted to Clara, who stood beside him, looking equally uncomfortable. Her mascara was smudged, her face pale, and she shifted uncomfortably on her feet. "Clara, isn't it?" Lorraine said, turning her gaze to the woman who had stolen her husband's heart. "Did you really think you could walk into my home and expect everything to be fine? You've ruined everything, but you don't get to pretend like you're innocent in this." Clara's eyes filled with tears, but Lorraine felt no sympathy. This wasn't about Clara. This was about the man who had promised to love her and their family, only to betray them both. Grant finally spoke, his voice weak. "Lorraine, I can explain." "Explain?" Lorraine interrupted, her voice sharp. "What's there to explain, Grant? You promised me a life, and you destroyed it. There's no explanation that will fix what you've done. You don't get to walk away from this." The tension in the room was thick, the air heavy with the weight of the confrontation. But Lorraine wasn't finished. She had one final card to play. "There's one more thing," she said, pulling out a document from the folder. "This is a legal notice. I've already contacted my lawyer. You're going to pay for what you've done. And this time, you won't be getting away with it." Grant's face drained of color as he finally understood the gravity of the situation. The truth was out. There was no more hiding, no more lies. Lorraine had taken control of her life again, and there was no turning back. The room fell silent once more. Lorraine stood tall, her hands steady. She had done what needed to be done. And as she watched Grant's shattered expression, she realized that, for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of relief. The truth had come out. And now, they would all have to face the consequences.